Concerned about the probability of similar attacks on port or port tenants' property. And after the Port Commissioner candidates weigh in on that, I would like to hear council. Do you have concerns about future eco-terrorism and what things might be considered to prevent that?
I know a little bit about the derailment that happened just down the road here. It was an eco-terrorism. You know, there's no doubt that those rail cars were they were unattached or from somebody that knows what they were doing, and we've noticed that there's no real press bringing all that out. So do I think there's going to be more? Yeah, I do. I think there's going to be more, and it scares the heck out of me because it's simply people that are going out because they don't like what maybe I like, and they're doing something very illegal, and they should be thrown in jail for years. And hopefully the two that they have arrested and convicted, which have not been put into jail yet, and I'd like to see how many years that they do get, but they should be, you know, they should be in jail for 10 years, in my opinion.
You know, I'm somewhat saddened by the fact that it's just us here and not our opponents, because you would see some very clear policy differences with some of the questions you're asking. These are not the typical things that we get in a forum. So I thank you, Mike, for bringing up some different topics. I happen to be in the oil spill cleanup business. We clean up contaminated soil around the globe. And there is no doubt in my mind that that train did not derail itself. That's number one. But really the biggest concern, and I think this goes to the heart of the question, is how do we get past politics and move forward into progress? We can't have a civil dialogue about issues in this country any longer. And everything is taken to an extreme to get your point across. That's the problem. We have a country that has lost the ability to communicate to someone you disagree with. I don't have a solution for that. That comes from the heart. But I just want to blow our horn here at the port. We have had an amazing ability to dialogue with everybody without that contentiousness. But if we don't solve that issue, we will continue to see people forcing their will from both sides of the political spectrum because we don't have the ability to communicate and to dialogue as human beings and find the 95% of the things that we have in common and communicate about those and find the common ground. It's only going to get more contentious. We see it in homelessness. We can't have a civil conversation about addiction. We can't have a civil conversation about mental illness. We can't have a civil conversation about energy. We can't have a civil conversation. That's what's necessary to bring this dialogue to a head, is to get people around the table that can have that dialogue and stop this. Radicalism seems to be the order of the day, and it needs to stop.
Thank you, Ken Bell. Do either of the council candidates care to comment?
So I would say, like, do I worry about those issues coming up again? Yes, I absolutely do. And how do we go about preventing those? That's going to be very tough because law enforcement or anybody else, they cannot be there every time to prevent those things from happening. But I would dovetail what Mr. Bell said, that there's nothing out there that we cannot solve with a positive dialogue. You know, it doesn't matter what side of politics you're on, we can find common ground and solutions. So there definitely has to be a dialogue to find better ways from all of those things from happening again.
Again, that's Kamal Oshu running for council at large.
Yeah, eco-terrorism, I think, is one thing, but I think domestic terrorism in general is a concern that we're facing right now. Hey, you started years ago with protests on the freeway out of nowhere that causing car accidents and unfortunately harming families, to what we see on the railways, to what we saw, down in front of City Hall with the mayors, running out the back of the place because they broke in the door. To now a personal concern. I have 2 boys and a wife that are at home, right? I live in the county. I have 1 law enforcement officer for my district, 1 sheriff's officer that has to do 1/4 of the county. So how long is it going to take them to get to my house? And now you have people showing up at elected officials' houses and screaming at them and hanging out in their yards and threatening them. I mean, that's a serious concern. But Ken's right. I mean, it goes back to dialogue. And honestly, I think that I hear this from both sides. People are frustrated because they feel like their local officials aren't listening to them. And that frustration is just boiling over and out into what we're seeing. And it's terrible. It really is terrible. And we need awesome leadership like Ken is showing and has talked about here, to be able to step up and show people this is how we talk to people, this is how we have those relationships, this is how we communicate effectively so that we don't get to those points. That's what we should be as a country.
Thank you, Tyler Bird. An issue we're all seeing throughout Whatcom County, throughout the state of Washington, throughout the country, is homelessness.